Today, we're going to be discussing the best EVs for under $30,000 with the federal tax credit. My name is Andrew Lambrecht. I'm a freelance writer at Business Insider, and I also write for Inside EVs. And today, I'm here with Justin Ortiz. And Justin, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, Andrew, thank you for having me on today. My name is Justin Ortiz over from All Car News, and I also do a lot of writing and reviews and news on everything on cars.
Great. I'm a big fan of your channel. And I think today we're going to have to be discussing, there's just so many electric cars out in the market today. It's crazy to keep track, ranging from crazy expensive cars like the Lucid Air to not so expensive cars like the Candy. But I think for the most part, the electric car market has just proliferated to such a degree where it's almost as if the market has been shifting more upstream towards like $40,000, $50,000 cars. But one area where we don't see a lot of attention is the lower end, like under 30,000, where that's a lot of Americans would buy brand new cars around that price point, because the median brand new car price is far lower than the average new car price. And just to start this off, we're going to be discussing these top EVs, and we made a list and we'll talk about them now. So I think our first option is the number 5 is the
Number 5.
Mazda MX-30. What a car, to say the least.
Yes.
Mazda even said that you need to have a longer range car than the MX-30 so you can own the MX-30. So that's why it's number 5 on our list. It starts at a price of $33,470, and with a tax credit you can get it for around $25,970, so about under $26,000 with the federal tax credit. That's a car.
It sure is a car. Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of unique things about the MX-30. Just be careful so I don't say CX-30. But of course, it is only, right, in the US at least, it's only sold in California. So there's kind of a limited market where you can actually buy it in general. And then there's a slew of limitations that do come with it. Of course, the range. And even Mazda said, like you said, they were saying, well, it'd be nice to have another car with you that can actually go the extra range. But a little fun note thing is that MX mark, yeah, sure, the MX-5 is called the MX-5 and it's been around for so long, but that's always actually meant to stand for almost like Mazda experimental in a way. So this car and the low range and the small market that it's being sold in, I guess, kind of feeds into this kind of like test they're doing to kind of step their feet into the water of an EV. But that still doesn't excuse for kind of how expensive it is and how low the range is, kind of for what you're getting.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think just to go a little run over with its specs, it does 100 miles on a single charge. It does have DC fast charging capabilities, which is expected in a new electric car, especially of that value, because 33,470, that's a base price. And granted, it does come with some nice features on the base model, like a sunroof and all that stuff, which you don't even see in other vehicles like the base Chevy Bolt. But I just feel at that price point, 100 miles really isn't cutting it. I mean, maybe if it was 2014, which is 7 years ago, I mean, it seems like this vehicle would compete better with like 2014 EVs, like the BMW i3 that came out back then and the Chevy Spark. And it's not even like it has a lot of power to make up for that lack of range. 143 horsepower. It's just,
it's a little,
it's missing the mark.
Yeah.
But I mean, once again, if you do live in California, you do qualify for all the credits and you get a good lease deal or something like that. Maybe you could consider it. And I don't doubt that it's a fun vehicle to drive. It's probably pretty nice knowing it's a Mazda, but it's definitely going to have to take last on our list.
Yes, for sure. And I'm pretty sure Mazda built this also in mind with having a plug-in hybrid range extenders, or not plug-in hybrid, more of like a range extender style situation, kind of like what the old i3 was. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes out or when that comes out and kind of what powertrain is with that. But we'll see if that even improves the range and how much that price is going to cost as well for it. But yeah.
And I agree, because I think definitely if they could put in the rotary engine in there, I don't know, because it's going to be added weight, maybe 85, 90 miles on a plug-in hybrid. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But we'd hope they'd maybe upgrade the motors a little bit, give it a little bit more power. And I think that would definitely be a pretty good option. Now, for the next car on our list, we're going to have to put the Nissan Leaf on there. And I used to not be a fan of the Nissan Leaf, but it's grown on me a little bit. And I think one misconception is everyone knows the Nissan Leaf has non-liquid cooled batteries, but
Mhm.
it's really not that bad, especially in the newer models. The battery cells are pretty good, and owners report very little degradation, which is good because you don't want degradation.
Yeah.
And the early Nissan Leafs were not that good at all. I mean, people had really, I've even seen some on Craigslist with 70% degradation. Like it only gets 20 some
Oh,
miles on a single charge.
yeah.
But I think the new one starts at 27.4, which is a really, really attainable price point. In fact, that's the cheapest electric car, I think. Uh, don't quote me on this, but I think it's the cheapest electric car ever to come out. And I think, especially with the tax credit as well, for $7,500 additional, you can get this thing $20,000. I mean, granted, you have to pay $7,500 in federal taxes, but
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, you can get this thing for $20,000. And if you live in Colorado, add another 5,000 on it, you're paying 14.9 for brand new
Yeah.
Leaf. And do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, the Leaf it's been around. It's been one of like the main EVs that's been sold even before the Tesla was kind of big and prominent. And I'm wondering to see like EV customers are going to like new EV customers are going to the Leaf, or if it's a more of old Leaf customers kind of buying into a new Leaf. But it would have been nice to see Nissan kind of progress more in their technology, with especially battery technology, since they've been doing this for such a long time, really at this point. And with everything coming out now, it would have been nice to see them kind of like have either A, more EVs, and B, something more kind of advanced in the current Leaf. I feel like that's a little bit of a missed opportunity for them, but judging how the price point is and kind of the features that you get in the space, I think it's a pretty enticing offering still.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But I think what would have been a good step for Nissan would have been to use the same Nissan Leaf platform and implement it in maybe an Infinity product, just to,
Yeah.
and especially with their E-Force all-wheel drive system, which they demoed back in, I forgot what year, but they demoed it in the Nissan Leaf and they got 0 to 60 in like 6 seconds. If they put that in Infinity sedan, like maybe
Yeah.
their Q60 that they I'm pretty sure that's a sedan or a coupe, sporty
Killer
coupe.
Coupe. Yeah.
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 Or if at least if they experimented with a powertrain like that, I think that would have been a step in the right direction for them, because I agree with you. They haven't progressed that much. It's not
Yeah.
like I mean, granted, it is a very affordable electric car,
For
but
sure.
it's just not that great looking. I mean,
Yeah.
decent horsepower. I mean, it's adequate range as well. I mean, and I think one thing I will mention is this uses the CHAdeMO charging system, which
Mhm.
is different from the regular CCS, and that's just one limitation. So
Inside.
I'm not sure about Electrify. Don't
I
quote me
don't.
on this, but I think Electrify America does not still use CHAdeMO. I don't
I
think they're
think.
building stations with it.
Yeah, it might be CCS.
So it's just going to be more. And the other thing is, I don't think new charging stations are being built with these CHAdeMO chargers, because only the Nissan Leaf really used it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's kind of like again, like not catching up on like the modern technology and kind of like keeping up with times, which is a little disappointing for Nissan since they've been doing this for such a while with the Leaf.
Mhm. Yeah. So we have another option on our list. And for number 3, we're going to have to go with the Mini Cooper SE. This is actually one of my favorite electric cars, but the range can be a limitation for some customers. And overall, I mean, the Mini Cooper design, it looks fantastic. It looks like a normal Mini Cooper. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of people would really like that, because it just looks normal. And especially you, who runs a page that is about all cars. I mean, what
Yeah.
do you have to say about its design?
Well, I think that's one of the things that people want. You see people constantly complaining, whether they're actually buying a car or not. But a big theme is like all these EVs are just these crazy, weird, futuristic shapes, and not everyone really wants that. I think Hyundai captured that really well with the new Ioniq 5. It's kind of futuristic, but still pretty familiar to everyone. But I think the Mini does a great job with that. It still looks like a Mini Cooper. It's sure it's a little bit sleeker, and there's maybe some funky wheels you can get, and some green accents, but it still looks like a regular car. And not everyone wants to be all like standing out and showy that, oh, I have an EV, oh, I have this. Some people do want that for sure, but not everyone wants that. I think it does a great job in the capturing. I think that kind of smaller, unique market.
Mhm. And I think the one thing I will have to point out about this Mini Cooper is this is the most powerful vehicle, or sorry, not the most powerful, but the quickest vehicle on this list. I guess highest power to weight ratio. Because the car weighs around 3,100 pounds, makes 181 horsepower and 199 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah.
This thing goes in typical BMW fashion. This car is quoted at 6.7 seconds, 0 to 60 on the website, but Motor Trend recorded 5.9, and I think Car and Driver recorded 6.1. So that is pretty impressive that they can get such good acceleration numbers. If only other manufacturers did that, like, well, we won't say their names, but
Yeah.
and I think the other thing with Mini Cooper is you get a liquid cooled battery, you get really good acceleration. The range is okay. EPA says 114. I've read owners getting 150 in real world, which is fine. I mean, there's still going to be people who want to take their cars on road trips, and this may not suffice for your only vehicle. But
Yeah.
if you're looking for a second vehicle, good option. Price is $29,900, and with the tax credit can come down to $22,400.
Mhm.
And the other thing is this car comes with a ton of luxury features as standard, like heated seats, heated steering wheel, stuff you have to pay extra for in even the Mach-E. The Mach-E
Yeah.
starts at about 45,000. You don't get heated seats or heated steering wheel. And this Mini costs $29,900, and you get all that stuff, which I think, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good option. Do you have any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a nice continuation almost of like the i3. I'm sure they don't really share any chassis or anything like that, but some of the EV tech's a little bit still there. And I think it's a good continuation since that's kind of been cut out of BMW's lineup. But it's just good size and good looking. You get a lot of nice features, and I guess the Mini brand's kind of cool as well. But I think it kind of ties into like there's a little bit of transitioning we're seeing happening from these affordable EVs going from like a compliance car kind of standpoint to actually being real affordable usable EVs. I think it's kind of on the cusp of in between that area that's happening right now, and as we're starting to see actual like fully dedicated EVs come into the segment that are affordable and have decent range and all these nice features. So I think it's a good in betweener car if you want to think of it like that. But it's definitely a good offering.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for our final options, it's sort of a tie because we debated a little bit over this, but I think these two vehicles are different, but they also have similarities. I guess that's very, very vague. But see, the thing is, we were going to have to include the Chevy Bolts, but as for now, GM delayed production till February, so we don't know when these are going to be fixed. My guess, maybe by the summer, the vehicles on the lots are going to get fixed. But I still feel for a lot of people who are especially new to EVs, they're going to find that as something very, oh, these cars are catching on fire, which I mean,
Yeah.
they're probably not when they're going to get fixed, but it's still going to scare off some customers. And
Yeah.
I mean, the Volt is a very good deal on paper. You get a lot of features. I mean, some things kind of annoy me, like that you have to get Bose stereo in the Bolt EUV, you got to spend $2,000 for that, and it comes with a sunroof, and it's stuff like that. In the Premier trim, when you're spending 35,000+ on a car, I mean, just give it some of those features to make it comparable to like the ID4 that has a decent stereo system as standard and all this other stuff. And the Bolt's competitive in range and in performance, but then GM needs to work on some of their other features because I mean, at the end of the day, it's an expensive car. You'd expect features like all that stuff.
I think for at least the Bolts, I see them more as like fleet vehicles. I see them more in use in that aspect than actually in owners' hands. I'm sure there are definitely a lot of owners, but I've seen them more for like, I don't know, like a county or a government little vehicle that's being used around for like small local applications more over than for like consumer use, which is kind of interesting. Maybe I'm sure GM's pretty good with like dealing with the government and kind of getting that kind of side for fleet vehicles usage. But I don't know. The Bolts, it's been around for a while now. I think it's aging a little bit, that platform, and GM's coming in with their new Ultium technology, the new modular chassis and new battery technology. So I hopefully they'll build something new on that platform that's also affordable, and maybe like phase out the Bolt and the Bolt EUV over time. But I think we're going to be stuck with them for a little bit. And for the features they have, they're not bad, but with the new competition coming in, I think they're going to start showing their weaknesses a little bit more.
And I think some of the other stuff, like you said, but one other thing I want to point on is like the Bolt UV. When you fully max out with options, you're spending over $40,000 on a front wheel
Mhm.
drive
Yeah,
hatchback, essentially. I mean, it's not really an SUV. And when you're spending that much, they should just make it all wheel drive. Give
yeah,
it just some functionalities because, like you said, it's the same platform. I mean, it's
yeah.
just new design. I mean, the platform's fine, but for $40,000, it's not that great.
Mhm.
And so for our top options, I think we're going to have to go with if you're looking for a car to get the most range, we're going to have to go with the Kona EV. And uh, really good starting price, $34,000. You get a $7,500 tax credit on it. So it's about 26.5. Um, I think this is available in select states, but I'm not so sure. I know at least the old Konas were available in about 10 states, 10, 11
Mhm.
states. But at least those are states where people are really buying EVs. So if
Yeah,
you're in, I don't know, Wyoming or somewhere, it's not like you're going to be really wanting a Kona EV.
yeah.
But do you have any thoughts on the Kona?
I mean, I don't know if it's just in the Northeast region, but I see these things everywhere. They're like they've been like I don't know what's happening. They're like all over the place, and I think they look pretty like decent. I mean, it's just small, it's very small. It's a compact SUV or hatchback, really. It's not really an SUV, but I think they're a great entry level EV option. Like even though it's not on a dedicated EV platform, it offers pretty solid range, low price, and a decent amount of space. It's very tiny still, but the Konas themselves are pretty popular as well. So I think those buyers in that segment just think, oh, cheap EV, I can get this pretty decent range. Nice way to kind of like save the environment and kind of hop into the new EV world for them as
Mhm.
well. So I think it's a good like offering in that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really think this car would have performed a lot better if they put this platform maybe under a Sorrento size vehicle or something just a little bit bigger because it's not really an SUV. It's kind of like the Polestar 2 in the sense that it doesn't really know what it is because Polestar
Yeah.
2 is kind of a sedan, it's kind of a crossover hatchback,
Yeah.
whereas this thing is between a hatchback and a crossover. It's not.
Yeah. It's suffering the same fate, I think, as all these like the Bolt UV, even the Mach-E. It's it feels like more of a hatchback to me, like a giant hatchback wagon versus like an SUV. But I think that's just the EV plague with their design and aerodynamics right now.
Yeah, and I think one other thing for this Kona EV we have to point out is the range is just shy of 260 miles.
Yeah,
I mean, good range. I mean,
pretty
that's really
decent.
good. 275 kilowatt DC fast charging, which is adequate. I mean,
Mhm.
can't really say much about that. Uh, and 200 horsepower. It's front wheel drive, and the tires spin like crazy when you accelerate in this
A lot
thing,
of torque.
which is, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want more performance, you might probably have to put on summer tires for that.
Yeah, I think that's also they're probably putting on like these economy. I don't know what they're putting on
Economy.
specifically on the
Yeah.
like, economy tires for those. So it's very skinny, like low contact. But they're trying to get the best range out of it, I think, at the time. But hopefully, if you're in a market where there's like snow or something or worse weather, I'd throw on a different tire. But I'd be interested to see how that affects the range that they're advertising.
Yeah, I know for a fact that some people put on because this they have the same issue in the Chevy Bolts and they put on summer tires. And obviously there's more friction with the
Mhm.
summer tires because that reduces the amount they'll spin, but you do get less range. So
Yeah.
it's a drawback. Do you want to
Mhm.
get more performance and less range? I mean, personally, I'd take the additional performance, but yeah, it's just something to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
But overall, I'd recommend the Kona EV. It's a fine car. I mean,
Yeah.
not much I can say else about that. And for our final vehicle is the ID4. And this is not the ID4 you see on the road now. This is going to be the $35,000 ID4 built in the Chattanooga facility. Likely they're going to start deliveries this year. I'll have to check. I don't know the exact timing. I'll probably put that down in the description, but it's going to happen this year. And unlike the regular ID4, which uses a 82 kilowatt hour battery pack, this one's going to use, I just read it was 55 kilowatt hours. this is, I mean, we don't know for sure, Volkswagen never,
No.
but this is speculation. So probably around 200 miles of range, which
Mhm.
is pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
for 35,000, and it's going to be rear wheel drive. We don't know if it's going to be the same horsepower figure. We hope it's going to be 200 horsepower out of the smaller
Might be a little
battery.
bit
I
less.
mean, yeah, but probably, yeah, not so sure the exact amount, but probably a little bit less.
Yeah.
We know it's going to have maybe some less features that are featured on the current ones, and I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think if you're looking at it between like this and the Kona EV, it's definitely going to be way bigger. If you have a family, you're definitely going to want to opt for the ID4 because the space is just there's no
I think it's
comparison. The
over a
Kona's
foot longer.
Yeah, the Kona is
Yeah.
a really tiny vehicle. But I think the ID4, I don't know what they're gonna call it. There's some weird names with the ID4 already, but I think it'll be a really popular entry level option. The technology is going to be there. I'm sure it'll be improved with the software updates and everything over
Mhm.
time. And it'll probably have decent fast charging. People will try to advertise Electrify America network more. So, oh, you have this, they'll have that connection, and people
And
like, oh, it'll be
yeah, and
easier to
hopefully you'll get
travel
the
around.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, as well. That'd be awesome. Um, I'd be interested to see how this works out for them.
And just trying to think about what else, because I remember I did drive an ID4 first edition, and the interior with the electronics were not good. Like the windows, when like they made this, they thought it would be cool to put a little button to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
two window switches and then a button to click rear, and then it didn't work, and then the mirrors wouldn't even like move. It was not a great not great, but hopefully
yeah,
they're going to fix it. And we do have a friend who drives an ID4, and he says it's fixed. I mean,
yeah.
which it should be, because I mean it's not a cheap car, and you
No, it's
expect
not.
the technology to work in a vehicle like that. And I feel like Volkswagen really kind of rushed it out to the market with this thing without fully getting everything completely ready.
Yeah, definitely. Be interesting to see. And I just did look this up really quick. There is the entry level i4 in Europe, I think, right now.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there is right now. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And if this is the one that comes over, we'll be seeing around like 150ish horsepower or 170, depending on which one they have, and around it would probably be around 200 miles of range, which I think that'd be pretty decent
So
for
might
an
do
entry
around the
level.
same 0 to 60 with the
Yeah,
lighter battery pack and a little bit less powerful motor. Because I know Porsche
yeah,
did that with the Taycan. They
yeah,
put
for sure.
like a little bit more horsepower in the bigger batteries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think for our list, just to reiterate, we have the if you want the most performance for under 30,000, easily the Mini Cooper SE. I heard it's really fun to drive, like 0.85 G's on the skid pad. I mean, overall, really good car for the price. If you want the most range, you got the Kona EV,
Mhm.
which is you can get for around 26.5 after the tax credit, which is a good car. ID4 is probably going to be the best actual crossover because it's the size of a normal crossover. And if you want the cheapest option, the cheapest on our list is the Nissan Leaf.
Yeah.
It's a little outdated, but for how much you're paying for, it's a pretty good overall deal. And do you have any final points you want to touch on?
Well, I mean, there's a lot coming. We're still pretty early on in EVs, and I think this entry level market is about to expand very big once these top end EVs come out and the battery costs get cheaper, and we're able to kind of increase the ranges on these lower end products. So I think we're going to see this market explode. And that mid tier is growing really fast. We have the Ioniq 5, we have the EV6, we have there's a cheaper Polestar 2 coming. There's
Mhm.
the Polestar 3 SUV coming. There's a lot of stuff coming soon, but I think it's gonna be really exciting to see how all these different brands take their approach on this market.
Mhm. And we hope for the future there's going to be more affordable options. And I know Mini is working hard at making some more affordable SU electric vehicles. And who knows, maybe Mini might be the next key player in the more
Yeah,
affordable section because they're coming out with a Countryman electric. The
yeah,
just I think the John Cooper were, I mean, obviously it's going to be more expensive, but for an affordable sports car, it might cost around 35, 40,000. We don't know for sure, but
yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's definitely going to be fascinating. And hopefully when Chevy fixes the bolts finally, they'll be out on the road
Yeah.
and not causing fires.
Yes, for sure. And there's a quick mention there. Remember, there was that same issue with the LG Chem batteries with the Kona EV, the first
Oh,
generation.
yes.
I can't really like ignore that. And the new one, the updated facelifted one came out, and they're selling like crazy. So I think hopefully, if they can fix these battery issues with the Bolt, I don't think there should be too much like backlash. Hopefully, as the media may kind of like make you see.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, actually, because you're a little bit hypocritical not mentioning the Kona. But I mean, basically with these fires, I don't think it's as serious as the media is making it out to be. It's good for clicks to say. I mean,
yeah,
and
sure.
we do like teasing GM a little bit, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's not that bad. It's if the car's charging, and yes, it wasn't really Chevy's fault. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so that wraps up our list. I think that was pretty a bunch of pretty compelling options if you want.
Yes.
And some of these vehicles could be your only car. Some of these shorter range ones, maybe not, but just great. I mean, all these options. If you're interested, go for a test drive. I think they're pretty fun.
Yes, definitely.
Yep. Well, thank you for having on. It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you.